High five.
I deserve answers!
Hey, this is Dark Avenue, and remember, every legend was once a prospect.
Mic check 212, bitch.
Welcome, everybody. You've probably already heard my live mic clearing my throat for the last minute or so. All the same, here I am. This is DDP, and this is Mavericks Fastbreak. Now, you might notice something. This is the final show, Mavs Fastbreak, before the season gets started on Wednesday. That means this is the last time I have to wear this god-awful Rajon Rondo number 9 jersey. As such, we're going to be moving into happier times, I like to think. I like to think my general mood will improve here. First in the house, shout out to Gleh. Then we got Ko the Kid. Ko the Kid. Misa, what's up? 7-3 record through the first 10 games, says Gleh. And Misa says, yes, that would be fantastic. It's a little bit more doable right now. I'm still going to call it optimistic. The Mavericks have caught some luck, though, which I will get into here in just a moment. What up, Justin? I said, what up, Justin? Zachary, what up, Zachary? Should Justin Jackson start? Yes, but I've been making that argument for 2 months, and if I wasn't the originator of that bandwagon, I was certainly the first one on board with it and presenting new reasons for why. We will talk about that here in a moment. Quick update real quick. We were supposed to have Annie on the show today. He was a late scratch, first not being able to be in-house for the show in person, and then a late scratch off the phone. So, sorry for that. I know when I posted about this earlier today on the channel, we talked about having Annie in here. Hopefully we can get that resolved for future shows. So, as is, it's just me today. We're going to keep this a little bit short and sweet, but I wanted to preview that Mavericks season opener Wednesday night against the visiting Washington Wizards. Mark, what's up? WTF, those city jerseys look like Summer League jerseys. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them either. I get the simplistic approach, but yes, they do look like practice jerseys and all of that. course, I think that we've had some garbage jerseys the last 3 years anyways. The City Edition DAL with the, like, not even neon green, like a yellow practically outlining of DAL. I didn't like that at all. I thought our uniforms last year, where it was like the dark blue shaded secondary logo for the Mavericks, or it's just like that stamp. I thought that looked like trash. That was just like a t-shirt basically without sleeves. So I haven't liked what we've been doing in the way of alternate jerseys. But this, compared to those, I would take these new statement jerseys over the City Edition and the Statement Edition previously. I like how they come up with a new name for them every year as well, just so so you stay invested, so you buy it. It's not just like, hey, here's the City Edition 2019 or the 2019 edition. It's like, no. Those were the City. Those were the, what was it? City, Statement. Oh, man, maybe they do, because now we're Statement again. I digress. Regardless, it's been a rough territory for the Maverick fans regarding merchandise. As for that comment on 7-3 start, the Mavericks are looking at Wizards opening nights. That is Wednesday at 7:30. Then they will go for their first nationally televised game of the year, Friday, to New Orleans. Here's where they dodged a bullet. We don't have to worry about Zion, because Zion, while he doesn't have significant injury to his knee, he will be out the first few weeks of the season, we've been told. So the Mavericks should catch a team that they're able to match up with, because we're still not entirely sure where we're at with Dwight Powell regarding his availability. And I don't know who we were going to throw at Zion, but it probably wasn't going to go very well. So, all the same, they will now, I think, have a better chance there, and that'll be their first nationally televised game. It's not a back-to-back, so KP will play, and you'll get your first chance to see what the team really looks like in that regard. Here are some people popping in here. What's up? The Dallas jerseys were fire, in my opinion. Well, I like the more classic look for the Mavericks, and that jersey had nothing to do with the Mavericks organization, in my opinion. But any free agent designers before the trade deadline? Designers? Any free agent targets, basically. There's going to be a lot that present themselves. A couple I've posted about here in recent days has been, one's not even an available thing where the Kings are talking about dealing him, but Buddy Hield's situation in Sacramento is not in a good spot. They offered him 4 years for, I think, $90 million. So that comes out to something like, I think it came out to something like $22.5 million per year. And Buddy Hield said he was insulted by it, said, hey, I don't know what they think they're saving money for, because what big name free agent has ever wanted to come to Sacramento? Damn. That is dropping an elbow on a team while simultaneously holding your hand out and asking for more money, which is kind of remarkable. But I love Buddy Hield. Again, my Oklahoma ties, I watched him through OU. Buddy Hield is my favorite Oklahoma player to come through in my lifetime that I've gotten to grow up and watch. Eastside Harold, what's up? Favorite guy that I've been able to watch come through OU, because he came in as a guy who was just a hustle and defender. Then he was able to kind of adapt and turn himself into more of a three-point marksman solely. And then by the end, he was pretty much an all-around scorer, and he was right there in the thick of like the Naismith Award. In fact, I think he won Player of the Year in that regard as well. So he got OU all the way to the Final Four, where he lost to, Jalen Brunson. So there you go. Villanova and Jalen Brunson knocked him off really, really bad there in the Final Four. But I digress. Buddy Hield would be a phenomenal 3-and-D option. The guy shoots like close to like right around 40% from three, and he can score from pretty much anywhere. If you can somehow get your foot in the door for that, dude, I do it in a heartbeat. Buddy Hield would be a phenomenal addition to this team in that regard. So if you got it, do it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Sacramento's letting him get away. And I think he's just playing hardball. But another one of interest to me is Domantas Sabonis. His contract negotiations with the Pacers have broken down. I posted his stat line the other day from last season with the Pacers. It is rather impressive. Let me actually pull up the exact details of it here. Domantas Sabonis last season, it was something like 74 games, 24.8 minutes, 14.1 points on 59% shooting, 9.3 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. Now, he's not a great defender, and I understand that will have some issues there, but he is very much an effective stretch four His per 36 is really strong as well across the board. He would be a lot of fun to watch on the floor with KP, with guys like even Maxey as well. So that's another guy that I would very much be interested in. Again, chances are he's going to work it out with the Pacers and get the money he wants. But sources, unlike Buddy Hield, where just Buddy Hield pretty much said, hey, either give me the deal or I'll gladly go somewhere else, or send me somewhere else that'll pay me, basically. That was Buddy making that statement. This is different in Sabonis' situation because this is Sabonis, not him personally, but it's basically sources related to the team, basically saying, hey, there is some concern about potentially not reaching a deal here, in which case they are open to moving him. So if that happens, if you can get him, hell yeah, man. That's what you're looking at in that regard. Those are two really big names that would make a huge impact. Buddy's going to cost you a lot more, but Sabonis was really in the thick of that Sixth Man of the Year race last year. I would like having him quite a bit. I saw him a little bit his rookie year with Oklahoma City as well. So very off topic to the show stream topic here, but all the same, wanted to quickly adjust that. Redbeard Sports said, I'm going to shave off my beard if we get Sabonis. Have to take one for the team. Hey, that's dedication, man. Mav Zero, hey DDP. What up? Micker45, is Dwight Powell playing? We don't know yet. He's been out. He's been dealing with, I think it's a hamstring. He's still hit or miss. We don't know yet. We don't have a status update. I'm hoping that he can be ready to go. But again, without Zion there in the second game, it looks like you can afford to give him some time. Let's see here. Do a quick run through in the comments. Sabonis and Turner don't really play well together for some reason. That's Galad talking about why they maybe look at trading him. Interesting. But he already spends tons of time in Deep Ellum. I think we have a chance. Well, yeah, he like I said, he was in Oklahoma at Norman for all that time. So Dallas is pretty familiar to him. It's pretty common for a lot of those athletes there to come to Dallas. Who guards Beal? Asks Zachary. You're probably going to put, I'm guessing there's a chance that you're going to see Dodo get the final starting spot in game one, because I think that they're going to try and slow Beal down a little bit. I think that they're going to go that route. I still think Justin Jackson is a fair shot, but I would not be surprised especially if Dwight's out, that Rick Carlisle tries to say, hey, I can't throw just a pure offensive lineup out there for the start of the game. Let's go ahead and throw Dodo out there, even if you might end up seeing Justin Jackson get more of those starts. I think Justin Jackson's had a really good preseason. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. has had a really good preseason. And as Any pointed out on Twitter, a very underrated preseason performance from Tim Hardaway Jr. If he can keep that momentum going into the start of the regular season, that would be great, and that would be a huge lift to this team, whether off the bench or, I'm less excited about this, but in a starting lineup capacity, because Rick will not say yet who that final starter is going to be. So it's not just Dodo or Justin Jackson being considered. Rick can throw you a curveball and say, hey, it's going to be Tim Hardaway Jr., or hey, it's going to be, hell, he could throw Seth Curry out there for all we know. There are different choices that he will consider. It's going to be matchup driven, and because you got Beal to deal with, it would not surprise me if he throws Dodo out there, because Dodo is our best complete defender to throw at that kind of situation. But if it's not Dodo, then you're going to have DeLon Wright on Beal, because DeLon Wright can guard the 1, 2, or in some cases the 3. Versatile defender there. So there's a couple options for Dallas in that regard. Nate Carroll, what's good? Thanks for putting out the content. You've been killing it. Props. Appreciate you, fam. I was super low on Isaiah Roby during Summer League, but I think his preseason has shown that his Summer League play may have really had a lot to do at hand. Says Sickham 800. Isaiah Roby's going to be a project. He really is. You're going to have to give him some time. There's a reason he was the 45th pick in the draft. There's a reason the Mavericks felt content to drop back in the draft. They didn't take him at 37. They traded down to get a couple extra picks, which they then got DeLon Wright out of. So, yeah, there's a reason they were willing to do that. They knew they were going to get him. He's a Swiss Army knife. If you can develop him a little bit, he might have a little bit of a role, but I think you're going to see him more with the Legends this year. But, yes, Roby's got a little something. There's something. There's a there, but you have to be patient and you have to give him the time to kind of find that a little bit. So we'll see. Buddy has an AAU team that plays a lot in Texas, I believe, says Mark. Good context. Was not aware of that. I loved watching Jalen Brunson in the starting lineup in the Clippers game. Yeah, Brunson is another potential starter there as well for Rick Carlisle. We know, we know he likes to run 2-guard lineups, right? Like he loved back in the day running 2-point guard lineups and all that. Now you got Luka, who's basically playing point for us, even though he might still be technically listed as the shooting guard. But it's just another thing where it's like, okay, you're going to have sort of 3-point guards out there. Like if they can all create and they can all contribute and, not be too much of a liability defensively, maybe you can do a little something with that. Tim has embraced his role off the bench. Yes, he has. Again, he had a great preseason. I'm very hopeful that he's talked about wanting to be like the Michael Finley, basically, to KP and Luka's Dirk and Nash combo. So I'm hopeful he can actually live up to that as well, because this team needs a third guy. Everyone's looking around trying to figure out who is our third guy, who is the third dude to step up for this team. And for some reason, a lot of people in the national media seem to think that it's Luka, KP, fall off the face of a cliff, and then you got, scrap heap. It's not that bad. People forget that before Barea went down with the Achilles last year, the Mavericks had one of the 3 best benches in the NBA. That's not conjecture. That's not opinion. That's just the fact. That's just what the stats were telling us. Our bench was one of the highest 3-scoring benches in the league when Barea went down with the injury. And it was pretty much the Clippers, and I'm trying to think of who the other team in that capacity was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's all the same. There's a lot there to be encouraged about with the Mavericks if they can keep that bench unit solid. I think they reinforced it well. It's just a matter of what we are going to be able to do in the way of defending and rebounding. Those are going to be our 2 big, potentially Achilles heels this season, I think. You got one of the best rebounding backcourts in the league with Luka and DeLon Wright. I think that's going to be a huge lift. It's going to be a rebound by committee approach. KP in the last preseason game gave you something like 17 points, 13 boards. I like that a lot. You want a little more in points, but he didn't shoot a particularly high percentage. So to be able to get that many rebounds out of him was really solid, really grade A stuff there from him. If you can get something like at least 8 boards a game out of KP, I think he'll do a lot to help us in that capacity. And if you can get games out of him where he will rebound out of his mind, sure, fantastic. I love it. Tim Hardaway Jr. is 46% from the field and 43% from 3. You talking about preseason? Yeah, he was really solid. I would really like to have Gallinari with the Mavericks, says Bobby R. Yeah, if that was on the table, sure, but it's not on the table right now. He's with OKC, and while they might move on from Chris Paul at some point in the season by trading him to Miami or wherever, there's no way you're prying Gallinari away from him as well. That's the only reason. That's the one guy I think that in these trades they're just like, nope, not giving him up. We'll see, but Gallinari I think is staying put. Would you cut Roby? Dude missed a lot of easy looks, says Mark. No, I wouldn't cut him. I would just send him down, designate him to the G League. Although it's funny, the Mavericks gave him a big contract coming out of the draft. Isaiah Roby actually will make more money this season than Jalen Brunson, which wrap your mind around that. It doesn't really make sense. Brunson was a much higher pick in his draft, like I think 31st in his draft the year before. And obviously he has a solid body of work through last year, way outperformed any expectations people had for him. And now he looks like he's going to be a key piece of this team, whereas Roby, I'd be surprised if he sees meaningful minutes for most of the year, if this year at all. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, he's a body you can throw out there, but more than likely he's not going to play a vital role to this team yet. And yeah, it doesn't make sense for him to be making more than Brunson, but he is. People told me Roby was our Kyle Kuzma. That was a bad comp from the jump. I like Buddy Hield, but when the news broke that he wasn't actually 21 but 43 years old, it changed a lot. Yeah, he's not 21. He stayed at OU all 4 years, and now he's been in the league that. So yeah, he's 26 probably, 26, 27, something like that. He's not a spring chicken, no, but there's a lot. When your game is built around three-point shooting, you tend to have a good lifespan in the NBA, especially when you can do it at an elite level. Aram, hello, what's up? So let's talk a little bit about the matchup here. This is going to be KP's first NBA action, regular season NBA action in over 20 months. We saw glimpses of him in the preseason. It looked rather nice. The field goal percentage wasn't there. There were nights where he could give you 21 points, but he would do it on like 20 shots. When he gave you 17 points, he did it on something like 19 shots off the top of my head. That's got to improve. But you know what? He's going to get plenty of catch and shoot looks. He did that. He was very good at that in New York when he got those opportunities. He'll get all the easy looks in the world. Yes, you already have your ESPNs and your NBA, the jump shows and all that, talking about how, you see this one isolated play here? You know what? I'm going to actually... I'm going to see about this. I'm going to try and throw this clip up now because I want to actually have this reference just so you guys can see how ridiculous this is. Now, it's a risk for the channel. I don't think it's going to be anything major, but I'm curious to see.
The other thing, though, there's another play from last night that I wanted
to
go to. This
That's
is look
great.
at him call for the ball here from Luka Doncic.
I don't know if you can actually hear that though.
He's got the seals. Like, give me the ball. Give me the ball. Luka's like, nah.
Yeah.
See the way he walked away there is a level of disgust. I'm like, come on, man, throw me the ball. This is something in the sense that it's something in the sense that this.
Great editing.
Everyone wants to think that hey, you get two great players play together, it's just gonna work perfectly. There is a little bit of give and take where guys are gonna have to learn when to share, when to be adamant about stuff, because that's something that. The other thing, though, there's another play from last night that I wanted to throw to. This is look at him call for the ball here from Luka Doncic. He's got the seals. Like, give me the ball. Give me the ball. Luka's like, nah.
Yeah.
See the way he walked away there is a level of disgust. I'm like, come on, man, throw me the ball. This is something in the sense that
we're gonna really.
It's something in the sense that this. Everyone wants to think that hey, you get two great players play together, it's just gonna work perfectly. There is a little bit of give and take where guys are gonna have to learn when to share, when to be adamant about stuff. Because that's something that grates on you. It might not mean much in a preseason game, but as it goes season on, longer and longer, like, hey man, I'm right here, give me the ball, da-da-da.
Do you give any weight to that clip?
No, not just yet.
This is ridiculous.
Like, if I was in that position, yes, I like to get my big man going right there. I know he has a height advantage. He can shoot.
I don't even know how much longer.
Yeah, but then I know he's frustrated. When he goes down the lane and he turns the ball over too.
Talk about it ourselves.
I told you to get the ball.
Right.
I mean, but it's nothing right now.
Nothing right now, but it could be something.
They're both young, and Luka in particular is only going to be his second
right
year.
Now we know. Look, whose team is this right now?
Luka's team.
Exactly.
Not even
so if I wave you out, watch out.
And look, it's Luka's team, obviously, because of Rookie of the Year.
I'm assuming at this point they've said what was worth saying here, so I'm going to fade that out because I am going to try and avoid some potential flagging on that point from copyright content ID system. We'll see. Hopefully not. But this is ridiculous for one play in preseason that ESPN has a show here talking about like, they can't coexist. They're fighting over who is the alpha. Who is the number one guy in Dallas? We'll never know. We gotta trade it. It's not gonna work. It's ridiculous, right? Mav Zero says you could hear the video, couldn't hear me much. Yeah, the layering was probably off, and if I had actually worked on that, knew I was gonna add that before the show, I would have had that tested out. But as is, I'll repeat what I was saying. Basically, it's a ridiculous segment because the suggestion is that, oh no, it can't work. The whole experiment can't work because we tried it for 5 preseason games, and look at this. I found a play. I found a single play wherein KP called for the ball and Luka didn't give it to him. Oh no. Oh no. Trade it. Blow it up. Blow the whole team up right now. Trade Kristaps Porzingis. This will not work. Dude, tap the brake, ESPN. We get it. You need content. You need something to talk about, but you're really reaching here. You're really reaching. Luka is the number one guy in Dallas. No question. No, if you ask pretty much anybody, I would say if you ask 900 people out of 1,000, they'll tell you it's Luka. You might have like the KP fan club say, well, maybe it's KP, or it's really like a 1A kind of thing. And I'm okay with that discussion if we want to talk about it where it's like, hey, it's these two guys together, kind of like Dirk and Nash in their early days. We still kind of looked at it where we're like, well, like Dirk mainly, but Nash is here too, and we don't really define it per se. But then Nash leaves, and it's like, oh, okay, there you go. See, it was always Dirk. I mean, it was, but now it's more clearly Dirk. It's not the same thing. So I look at it. I don't worry about it. It's a ridiculous clickbait thing. They just want to have a discussion. They want to have all that. And hey, to an extent, it works because I just played their clip just so I could talk about it and how ridiculous it is. So I guess they got what they wanted. But it's stupid to look at it and say, hey, this is proof that it can't work. Like, if we're a month or more into the season and we're seeing several plays like that, several games like that, then we can go, all right, something's up here. What is it? Why? Like, we can assess it at that point. The fact that you found one play to isolate out of 5 in a preseason is ridiculous. And there are people who say like, well, hey, a lot of what KP's doing in the preseason, a lot of it's not coming from Luka, unless it's like an alley-oop. Luka's not throwing him the ball a whole lot. Dude, you think there's any chance that Luka's out there like, you know what? I really don't want KP to do that good because this is supposed to be my team. And if he looks good in a preseason game, people might start to question, man. People might start to question whose team it is. Dude, that could have been like a 2% question last year when Dennis Smith was still here. And when you put them on the pedestal at the same time, said, all right, one of you play, one of you stand out. Oh, look, Luka rose to the occasion, and Dennis Smith kind of hovered in mediocrity. Every now and then kind of peeked his head up like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still a pretty good player. Remember when you were excited about me? And then he'd kind of disappear again. Like, it is what it is. And I know not all that is his fault. I'm not taking pot shots at Dennis Smith Jr., but it's a ridiculous thing to look at that and say, oh, well, here's this one exception here. There's no way that Luka doesn't want KP to exceed to the utmost level he can. Luka would even be okay. I bet you anything. Luka would be fine with KP averaging more points per game because Luka said he would love to lead the NBA in assists. That's an actual thing he said at Media Day, that he would love to have a goal for leading the NBA in assists. Does that sound like a guy who's like, I need to have like 2 points per game more than KP. I need to lead the team in that regard. No. I mean, did he last year? Sure. He was 21 points per game. That was our leading scorer. But it's not like he's ever out for himself in that regard. He's a guy who, he's your guy. He's your number one option. And he's going to be your maestro who runs the offense. That's cool. That's great. But don't get it twisted and act like, oh, well, because he's your best player overall, that means he automatically has to be your leading points per game guy as well. Not necessarily. In fact, a lot of the time, that's not the case. Steve Nash had plenty of guys in Phoenix. Amari Stoudemire comes to mind as well, guys that dominated around him. And even though he orchestrated a lot of things, it was more about getting the flow of the offense, creating and setting guys up. So it is what it is. That's the ridiculous thing there. I'm not worried in the least damn bit. KP will get plenty of looks from Luka, wide open looks. His shooting percentage should round into form. Year 2 of Luka, he's going to be running the show the whole season now. He's got more firepower around him than he had last year. That means to me his assists, the 6 assists per game he had last year, that number is going to go up. I think he's going to push 7 to 8 assists. Let's say like 7.7 assists. If that's my over-under, I'm going to say that's probably, I'd say that's probably about right, 7.7. 7.5 assists, over-under, I'm going to go over. That's my guess for Luka Doncic in that regard, in that stat. I think Luka will take a step forward. I think his rebounding will hold about the same. He was 8 last year, so it's hard to see him getting too much better in that regard, especially when there's going to be a little bit more competition for some of those rebounds now. But it's still going to be a significant lift to the team. Year 2 of Luka should be pretty good. I'm not worried about it. He hasn't looked in the preseason at all like his shot has been messed up at all, like he's lost a step or anything like that. In fact, he looks better and more prepared now than he did this time last year. He's in better shape. He went through a whole year in our strength and conditioning and nutrition program and all that, and I think he's better for it. So it is what it is, man. Let's see here. Let me read some of these comments. Here I see you guys talking, so I want to make sure that I'm getting some of the main stuff here. Barea and Hardaway off the bench. I'll be curious to see how ready Barea looks once we're into the real games now. He's 35 coming off an Achilles injury. That's a tough spot, especially for like a 5'9" point guard. But I'd be curious to see what he can do, if he's got a little something to him still, if he can still make it happen. Because, yeah, when he was on fire last year, he was having the best year of his career prior to that injury. And he was making that bench unit lethal for us. So if he's got anything to contribute to it, now you add in guys like Curry, Hardaway Jr., and all that, there should be no shortage of firepower. My starting lineup prediction for opening night, I'm going to stick with the lineup that I've been saying. I know I just talked earlier about how I could see Dodo getting the nod. But I'm going to say, now that I think about it, I think Bradley Beal is going to be who is tethered. DeLon Wright is who is tethered to Bradley Beal. So I'm going to say DeLon Wright, Luka Doncic, Justin Jackson, Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm going to say, because I don't think Dwight Powell is ready, I'm going to say Maxi Kleber. I think I'm going to say that's my starting five for this first night of NBA action for the Dallas Mavericks. Let's see here. Does Roby Deal have any team options? I'd have to look into that. I don't remember that being a specific thing. I don't think it does. How do you feel about Trey Mann trying to kill our boy Luka? I don't think anything of it. I mean, they're trying to punk him. We saw that happen last year. You see guys, they're going to try and punk Luka because they think, hey, how do you get in, there's this, in this day and age, it's a ridiculous perception, but the assumption is that European players are somehow soft. That hampered Dirk through much of his career, and if you actually go back and look at it, he wasn't soft. He just played a more guard-driven game. Like, he was more of a shooter than because he didn't take it into the paint and bang bodies with Shaq, that somehow meant he was soft. Okay, well, he went toe-to-toe with guys like Karl Malone in the paint, Tim Duncan in the paint, Kevin Garnett in the paint. Like, he dealt with them. He guarded them. He was physical for rebounds. Like, it's a stupid perception. So guys are going to try and punk Luka. They're going to try and throw everything at him, see if they can knock him off his game. And, hey, that's part of why you got a Boban. You've already seen they got a budding bromance there. And Boban will absolutely go after anyone that tries to punk Luka. And for that reason alone, I already love having Boban on the team, not just his own entertainment factor, whether it's him and Luka kind of palling around on the bench or whatever. But it's just a different dimension. Because last year, when guys tried to do that to Luka early in the year, I never saw DeAndre Jordan really go have Luka's back. And I was kind of like bothered by that. I was like, dude, I know he's a rookie, but it's your best player. Like, what are you doing? Why aren't you at least trying to protect or guard him from other teams messing with them? If somebody takes a shot at your guy, you take a shot at their guy, or at them specifically. Like, that's how you do it. Tyson Chandler didn't let anybody punk his teammates when he was here. That's what you got to do. And DeAndre Jordan didn't really do that for Luka. Boban's already showed that he will do that, and so I'm happy about that. Let's see. Who starts for Washington? That's a good question. I have to look at their lineup again here on that. But I'll try and see if I can look that up real quick, because I know there is something where they don't have theirs completely ironed out last I saw. Let's see. Is KP in trade talks? Will they work it out? P66X, they are judging by one play. Yes, they are. Yes, the media will start drama over anything, and it is really, really ridiculous. To me, that's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, this is like a moment in hacky journalism, because they got nothing to offer, man. They got nothing. I understand you have slow news periods and cycles and all of that. I get it. Like, through the off season, even doing this show weekly, there was times when I didn't have a whole lot to really dig into, and that led to us occasionally having to revisit certain subjects, saying like, well, let's talk about this again. We brought it up 4 weeks ago. Do we know anything now that kind of changes it? Well, a little bit here, and you talk about that, but like, I get it. There's slow news cycles. But to look at this and just say, rather than, oh, here's one play, like, at least call it out as one play. Be like, hey, this happened here. I don't think it's anything, but, you never know. KP was the lead dog in New York. Maybe there is a little part of him that still has that kind of alpha mentality where he still thinks of it that way, and they're just going to have to work that out. But they will work it out. If you go with that approach, I'm not even mad. I'm not even talking about the segment. But the fact that you talk about it is like, no. They're going to have, this is a problem here. This could be a problem here. I don't want to sound the alarm too much, but here I am sounding the alarm. Okay, whatever. You do you. And it's not real journalism at that point. And that's the thing. When you bring in a bunch of these guys who are, the personalities, you bring in former players and stuff like that. I know Paul Pierce was there. They're not, their only thing is they played, so they know it from that regard. They understand kind of the culture in the game, and they know some of the guys that are still there. They're not journalists. They don't have any credentials or anything like that. It's just we want the larger-than-life personality and someone who's been there and can kind of understand it. Fine, but don't act like you're the ones who are doing something journalistic where you're breaking some story or anything like that and have any real analysis of it. That's all I'm saying. And that goes for Kendrick Perkins, too. I know he talks all the time, him talking about, I've talked to a lot of guys who played for Rick Carlisle back in the day, and none of them had anything good to say about him. Dude, you're best friends with Rajon Rondo, who quit on this team so hard that the entire team voted not only to send him away in the playoffs, but to not even give him his pay for the playoffs. They made sure he didn't get a dime from that first round series against the Rockets because Rondo quit on the team so hard. At some point, it's just you that's the problem. People say Jason Kidd didn't like Rick Carlisle that much. They butted heads, sure, but Kidd was a floor general in his own right. He wanted to run things his way. Carlisle, at the time, was a guy who didn't like giving up that control. And hey, guess what? They ended up figuring that out going into the championship year after about a year and a half together. They figured it out. 2 years, whatever, together. They figured it out, and they made it work. End of story. Now Jason Kidd would tell you that Rick Carlisle's a very good friend of his and that they'll go golfing and stuff every now and then in the off season. It's not even a question. You had Rajon Rondo didn't work out, and you had Darren Collison, who was a nice young point guard who didn't play at all like Rick Carlisle wanted his point guard to play. And so, yeah, he switched him out for Mike James, of all people, at some point in that process. I get it. It's not easy to be a young point guard under Carlisle. I'm not saying, hey, Carlisle's an angel. How dare you slander his name? I'm just saying don't paint such a broad stroke you're painting a broad stroke with your paintbrush and everything, saying, it's all the same, it's any point guard playing under Rick Carlisle, they're going to hate this, it's not going to work. Not even point guard. He's painting it just as any player who played for Carlisle has nothing good to say about him. Funny, if I haven't seen the Mavericks locker room ever revolt against Rick Carlisle, and it's amazing he's still in Dallas if that's the case, because if Luka and Porzingis and a bunch of these other guys rebelled against Rick Carlisle, yeah, that would force Cuban's hand ultimately. But it's you don't see that happening because these guys aren't rebelling against him. They understand he's a good coach. Let it go. Kendrick Perkins is one of those guys that likes to say a lot and not really say anything at all. My Cowboys family, what's up? Zoran, what's up? Players, the team does look like it is progressing for sure. Let's see here. Let's do a prediction here. So we're not doing, because Annie's not here, I don't want to do our season predictions yet. So we might be, a couple games into the season before he's back on here and we have a chance to actually talk about that and give our full season predictions, but that's fine. We'll still work with it all the same. Let's talk about the first 10 games of the season. Wizards, I think you can win that game, and you damn sure should win that game. Home opener. Wizards are not a good team right now. I think they're going to be towards the very bottom of the East, so that should be a win for you. Going to New Orleans, the fact that you don't have to worry about Zion, I think that is a very winnable game for you as well. I think you could start 2-0 in that regard. Unfortunately, you're going to get humbled pretty quickly after that, because then you got to play the Portland Trail Blazers, who are a great team in the Western Conference, and then you got to play the freaking Denver Nuggets. You got to go 2 Mile High, and you got to go deal with them. That's not going to be fun. That's not going to be easy. I almost said Wizards. The Nuggets are a very, very good team in the Western Conference, and so I think you'll fall back to 500 there. Then you got LeBron and Anthony Davis and the Lakers, even though that's at home. Puncher's chance early in the year. Anthony Davis is still going to be nicked up with injury, so you never know. Dallas played the Lakers tight last year in each matchup, but I'm torn on that one. I could see it being a toss-up game for sure. Then it gets easier. You go to Cleveland. You host the Magic. Then you host the Knicks. That is going to be potentially the Dennis Smith Jr. revenge game. That'll be another nationally televised game. Then you go to Memphis, who is in rebuild mode. They're not a good team. And for the last of the 10 games, you have to go to the Celtics. I think that's going to be a loss probably as well. So yeah, I look at this start. I saw some people early in the chat talking about 7-3 through 10. I don't see that start, but I think you're definitely looking at something, because you're always going to lose probably one game you shouldn't, especially early on. I think Dallas probably starts something like 6-4. I feel like 6-4 is doable through the first 10 at this point. And does that mean 7-3 is possible? Of course. You're that close, it's possible. But you got to see. Some things got to break right for you. And to put this into context, the last 3 years through 10 games, your starts have been 1-9, 2-8, 3-7. That's your start through the first 10 games the last 3 years. If you start 6-4, you automatically give yourself a great chance, because you can't win a playoff spot that early in the season, but you can pretty much lose it. I mean, 3 years ago, the team started 4-21 through the first 25 games. I mean, it was abysmal. And that team still got close to the playoffs even then. Pretty close, at least. So there's a lot to look forward to in that regard. I think you're going to see an exciting brand of basketball, and definitely a lot of really close games. I don't think Dallas gets run off the floor to really any of these teams. I mean, maybe you can have one of these teams pull away late, but I don't think it's going to be like a barn burner where you go out there and within 8 minutes of the game, you're like, well, we're down 23 points and never going to get that close, but we'll do our best. Pretty much run through the motions, but I think we got something to look forward to here. Let's see. King Ketchum, what up? Luka Doncic and KP are already better together than Luka Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr. ever. Well, their games complement each other and they fit together better. You're not having to take someone who... Dennis Smith Jr. had always been an on-ball player his whole career. He'd always had the ball in his hands. And suddenly you were like, well, hey, Luka's better at it than you are, and he can actually create for other guys and not really just himself predominantly. So we're going to let him kind of run things. And every now and then you just got to pick and choose your spot. Oh, and you got to get better at being off the ball. That wasn't an adjustment he could really make so quickly. And I have questions about what his ceiling could be, Dennis Smith Jr.'s. But, hey, he's got a chip on his shoulder this year. Maybe he can do something for the Knicks. Jan, what's up? Hi, America. You will see the real Luka Doncic this year. You saw 75% of Luka last year. He will not be so humble this year. His stats will be around 26, 9, and 7, says Jan. That's a really high bar to set. So let's see, 9 and 7. So you have him going up in a rebound per game and up in a assist per game, up 5 points in points per game. That would be a stellar line. I would love to see that line. I think my prediction I had for him was 23 points, right about 23 points, give or take, half a point. 23 points, 8 boards, and 7 assists. I think that's about right, 7, 8 assists. Actually, I said my over-under was 7.5 earlier, so I'm going to hold to that. 7.5 assists per game for Luka. I think that is where I got him. Not too different from yours at all, but I think KP is going to give a lot to this team as well, and I think it would not shock me if KP on a lot of nights this year is your leading scorer. Maybe not for the season average a higher scorer than Luka this year, but certainly very much in the thick of that race, very close. DeLon Wright needs to step up, be aggressive. It opens up opportunities for his teammates. Yes, he does, and he's already said that the team has pretty much all told him the same thing, and that he's going to try and be more aggressive out there and look for his shot. He's going to do that, and so I think that's kind of a thing too. When you're a guy who's always been a bench player, you've always been behind Kyle Lowry or Mike Conley Jr., you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, you know what? Should I force my hand? Sometimes I'm told to kind of pick and choose my spots a little bit. Dallas is like, no, dude, you're a starter. You go out there. If you get your shot, you get your opportunity, you take it. It's not a question. It's not a debate. You take the opportunity if it's there, because we're going to find you good looks, especially if he's going to get a wide open 3-point shot in the corner. You saw him early in the preseason turn down a couple looks like that. And that was, I think, right after that the team pretty much told him, no, dude, if you get the shot, you take it. Don't question it. Don't think like, well, you know what, maybe if we work the ball around a little bit more, we can find a better shot for someone else. No, you take the opportunity. KP doesn't even really come across as a European player. He seems to embrace American culture more, and the most he talks is that he lived in the U.S. for 10 years, plays entertaining, just not skilled. All right, interesting. William Phillips, Luka actually started the altercation. If you're talking about with Man, that whole thing started when Man slapped the ball out of Luka's hands. Then Luka kind of gave him a push because they're punking him. I mean, it's the same thing. You know, he's not just slapping the ball out of his hand. He's saying something when he does it. He's trying to get in Luka's head, and he's talking smack. So Luka gave him a little shove, and then that's when the whole confrontation started. You saw Man kind of shove at Luka's throat a little bit. It is what it is. I'm not even concerned about it. And everyone, I think the Clippers broadcast was talking about it like, ho, look at him getting in Luka's head. And I'm like, when Luka plays angry, it's not a good thing for the opposing team usually. And when your team's getting beat by 20 points or whatever, maybe don't talk smack. But it is what it is. I'm not worried about it. And I like Luka playing with some edge every now and then. I think DeLon was taking it slowly in the preseason because his hamstring injury. That is true as well. Because he takes tough drives usually. He'll be far more aggressive in the regular season, trust me. I agree with that. He was dealing with the hamstring injury. He didn't miss any preseason action with it, nothing notable at least. But he was questionable for the start of the preseason because of that. Rajon became a wimp when Boston shipped his ass. Yeah, I tend to agree. He has never been the same since he tore his ACL. Seeing a lot of people saying 5-5 is their prediction through the first 10. Some 7-3, some 6-4s. Easy E's predicting an overall season record of 45-37. Strong start out of the gate of 7-3. 45 wins would be great. That's basically in line with what I predicted for this team as it stands now without a trade deadline move. I have this team as about a 44-win team. If they make a trade deadline move of significance, I think they can bump up a couple extra wins and get right up into the edge of that playoff race. But we'll see. 48 wins got you the 8 seed last year, but I think the West has better parity this year, and so I think that number drives down a little bit on the floor of getting in. And so I think that's going to open things up a little bit for the Mavericks as well. You are just as scared as I am with the lack of defense in this team. I am concerned about the defense for sure, and that's why I think this team needs to make a trade specifically with a defensive-minded approach. Now, I'm not saying get a guy that can't play offense at all. That's not going to help you a whole lot, but you have to address some things because right now this team is going to be kind of like the early 2000s Mavericks teams where it's like, not so much defense, but if you put us out there, we can try and drop 200 points on you or something. I can't remember what year it was. It might have been like 2003 or 4. The Mavericks had like 85 points at halftime, and I'm sure the Warriors have topped that since then. But at the time, it was like, oh wow, 85 at halftime will get you going in that regard. So if you can go out there and just outscore everybody, you can make up for not having much defense. But they're gonna have to figure something out. It's not gonna be enough as is in most cases. I think they're gonna have to rely on that offense and hopefully some timely stops. I think they're not a horrible defensive team. I just think that they need help in that regard. Can you guys hear me? I see Edu saying he can't hear me, but my mic shows that I'm playing audio, so let me know if you guys can't hear me for some reason. Home Soul, good morning from Malaysia. What is up? Welcome. Let's see. Commenter said Luka was getting frustrated. The Mavs were winning by 20 and the Clippers were getting frustrated. Yeah, the commentator thing. They're going to slant things towards their team no matter what. So it depends on whose broadcast we're talking about. But I'm not worried about the whole thing with Mullen. I think it is what it is. Clippers are going to be a good team. He's just a kid trying to kind of find his way on that stacked team. So they love what they saw from him. I'm not worried about it as it relates to Luka, but teams are going to try and punk Luka throughout the year. And hey, it's good that you now got an enforcer like Bobby there. Mavs remind me of Denver the year right when they were outside the playoffs. Which year was that? Are you talking about like a couple years ago? I think there was a year when Russell Westbrook got the triple-double record, single-season triple-double record, that he knocked him out of the race at the very end with like a three that gave him that record-breaking triple-double, like number 42 on the year. Yeah, that's not a bad assessment, really. Now, I would say they have more star power than that team did, but it's still, that was a very good Denver team. But anywho, let's see, how long have I been going? 50 minutes. Wow. Well, I got time for about 3 more quick questions, then I got to wrap up this edition here. The Mavericks in this game against the Wizards, this should be a win. You got to contain Bradley Beal. You got to see what's going on there. You're not going to have to worry about anything with John Wall, obviously, so that's going to help things out. The Scott Brooks and the Wizards are not in a good spot. They are pretty much going to be in the basement of the East. This should be a pretty sound win for the Mavericks, I'm guessing. If I had to predict like a point spread, I would tell you the Mavericks win this game by at least 14 points. I think that this is a game that they control. Maybe Washington chips away at it late when it's all the reserves in. But I really think this is a game that Dallas will make a nice statement on their opening night, the second night of the NBA season. I think they'll make a nice statement and kind of pretty much give us a show of what we can see with Luka and KP. That's a great, very complimentary 1-2 punch, two-man game in that regard. We saw glimpses of how good that could be in the preseason with the pick and roll, and I think they're going to get a lot. KP, he's probably going to be hyped up to 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. He's going to be hyped at a 12 just to get back in regular season action and actually playing. But I think he'll settle in. I think if they're smart, they'll probably try and get him a couple quick buckets early on, a couple easy buckets, just so they can kind of get him going, get him a little bit settled in. Because sometimes when you're coming back from a long absence, just getting that first basket, it can calm your nerves considerably. If you find yourself missing, and you miss a few shots before you make your first one, you get tight, you kind of start rushing things a little bit, you start thinking about it a little bit too much. But I think they'll get him going early. I think they'll settle him in, and then you'll start to see really the balance with this team. I think right now your third highest scorer could very well be Tim Hardaway Jr. I think DeLon Wright's going to have something to say as well in that regard. I think he'll be a guy that can give you some very good numbers from the starting point guard. He's not going to give you big point numbers, but he can be a guy that can kind of fill up the stat sheet for you as well. And then Justin Jackson, hey, if he's the starter, man, look out for him. I'm still very high on Justin Jackson, regardless if he's your starter at the small forward position opening night. Mavs need somebody like Steven Adams. Foot speed alongside KP would not be good for the front court, but I like Steven Adams quite a bit. It's not a perfect fit, and it's a huge contract to take on, but he is 25 years old, so it's not like mileage is a problem. Capella, that's another monster contract, and that one I don't want to mess with at all. Sabonis has been made available for trade. The Mavs should make a play. The sources say that he will be made for available for a trade, and if that's the case, yeah, I throw my hat in that ring for sure. I talked about his numbers at the top of the stream. He is a very, very nice player. I saw him a little bit with OKC his rookie year, and last year he had like 24, almost 25 minutes a game, 14.6 points, 59% shooting, like 9 boards, 3 assists practically. I mean, dude fills out the stat sheet when he's on the floor in the thick of the 6-man race. If you can get him, that is phenomenal front court depth, and having him a stretch 4 like that, putting him on the floor with KP and Luka and Curry and anyone like that, like a Justin Jackson, dude, when you got 5 guys who can shoot 3-pointers on the floor at the same time, above 38, like above 37%, holy crap. Will you shoot the lights out, and will you be lethal? Cowboys X Factor. Hey there. I like what KP has done so far, albeit the preseason. Yeah, I agree. His shooting percentage needs to level out a little bit, and he had a couple games where he didn't rebound quite like I would like, but otherwise I'm happy. Jimmy Butler, possibly a good fit. Jimmy Butler's on a new deal with the Heat. He's not going anywhere. He just signed a max deal with the Heat in a sign and trade this offseason, so that's not even a discussion. If you're talking about Andrew Wiggins, no, I'm still not interested in that. Wiggins has regressed pretty much every year of his career, and it's also a bloated contract. So it is what it is, but I think that's going to wrap it up for the time I got on this show, guys. Actually, you know what? Before I sign off here, Sabonis is 23 years old. Before I sign off here, this is the last time I'm going to have to wear this stupid Rondo jersey for bet payoff. So I'll tell you what. Let's just end this mess right now. The suffering is over. The Rajon Rondo jersey is no more. Where is it? Here we go. Yes, sir. No more. Straight to the trash with it. So, that is going to do it for my time, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute. I'm free!
Self high five.